see our smart boys, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts here, and the sons of veterans here today. So today, I'll not talk about politics. I leave that to the guys here. And what I'm going to talk about is to give justice to these sons and daughters of the veterans like myself. And I'm happy to see at least 2 survivors here. And let me move on to my address. I'll try my best. I guess my siblings are better representatives, but my elder sister, Manang Adela, sabi niya, mainit daw dito. Hindi naman. So she has served the civil service as a civil service director for 23 years, Adela Esteban. And my other sibling is Michael Esteban, who served under Governor Rocky Molintas and Governor Ben Palispis. Okay, so to introduce myself, I am the 7th of 8 children. We're supposed to be 9th, but I am the 7th. I'm a mechanical engineer, currently based in Singapore with my family, but I came back, retired, and I'm now teaching engineering subjects here at University of Cordilleras. Okay, to start with, 2 days ago, I was walking here and I noticed 10 people from Sibao trying to make the names legible. No? It's the right thing to do because we must give honor to these people with their sacrifices. So, what is the importance of today? Today is Araw ng Kagitingan, a day of valor of our parents. It can be our fathers, our mothers of the auxiliary unit. They can be our grandparents who laid their lives. So, but the question is, who was Lieutenant Florencio Esteban? Why do we talk about it today? And I remember he was always asked to recall, together with the late Mayor Brigadier General Ernesto Bueno, and sometimes another former mayor, his buddy was Colonel Rafael Ping Paraan. So these are the guys, his army buddies that used to visit him in our house in Camp 7. And my job was to serve coffee and sometimes some wine, especially to Brigadier General Pedro Baban. So looking at your faces today, it looks like a family reunion of sorts. And if you look at the names, it's more of the USAFIP 66NF, USAFIP NL, Northern Luzon is more of an American and Ibaloy contingent, sorry. So basically, I will explain why. So, what is the significance of April 9? It is not actually the USAFE, but as they said, it was the defeat of the USAFE, the United States Armed Forces of the Far East, by the United States of America. So how can a Baguio boy or an Ibaloy boy like my dad from Tabaan be drafted and sent to defend the Ilocos Coast? So going back to introduce my dad, he was once an altar boy of Father Florimon Carlo. That's where I got my name. And at that time, SLU Boys High was not Boys High as we know during our time. It was St. Patrick's Dormitory. And that time, Igorot boys' tuition was free, and the Ilocano boys had to pay a token of tuition. So he graduated from Boys High as he told me he was a salutatorian of their batch. That was 1939. In 1940, he enrolled at UP Baguio College. And at that time, that was 1940, he went for a cadre training in Bontoc Mountain Province for 2 months. And when he came back, he quit. He quit studying to work for the CM fathers who initially took care of him and worked as a circulation manager of the Little Apostle. It's a paper of the CICM fathers. So, after that, it was the fateful day of November 16. Able-bodied men, of course, when you join the cadre training, you are a member of the reserve force. So on November 4, he received a memorandum to report at Camp Holmes, now named Camp Molintas Damwa. November 16, he was declared fit for duty as together with other boys from Baguio and Benguet. And he remembers that there was only one who was disqualified. And then they were asked to go back again on November 17 to take their oath of allegiance to the U.S. flag. So there was an American officer who was reading a long memorandum from the United States Office of the President of the United States of America. And after the long message, we took as his words, we took our oath of office. We swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States and obey all regulations, and concluded, so help me God. After the induction, the United States Army and swearing to the American flag, the next day, the youth, including our dad, were brought down to San Fabian, Pangasinan to defend the Ilocos coastline. So that's where the United States USAFE were supposed to defend. That's the first contingent. The Manila was a reserve force, and there were two other forces like the South Luzon Force and the Visayan Mindanao Force. But as history would write and would not write it, the USAFE forces were easily wiped out by the Japanese invading forces, and their camp in Manaoag had to be moved to Mount Samat, Bataan, and Corregidor Island as the remaining USAFE forces last stand. So some notes were this: U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt declares the Day of Infamy, and the date was December 8, 1941. So their commanding officer in Manaoag was General William Brower, and their chief of staff was Colonel Moran. And at the same time, December 8, John Hay was bombed. So December 23, 1941, Baguio City was declared open city. So when you say open city, that means our forces will not defend the city to save lives. So 1941, December 23, declared as open city. December 25, that was Christmas, their forces was withdrawn to, remaining forces were withdrawn to Santa Rita, Pampanga. And December 29 was again moved to Hermosa, Bataan. While being deployed in their own foxhole, so they had to position themselves at the foot of Mount Samat. So you have to dig your own foxhole. So that was already January. By February, they noticed that their food supplies were only dwindling. And what will you do? So they have to survive in the Bataan jungles by trying to eat anything that was edible. And by night, they had to use their flashlights and their bayonets to fish. So that was their life for a few months. But my dad, together with Sablan Private Daniel Akia, they noticed a group of monkeys were walking near their foxhole. So they let the monkeys walk by, and then bang! Private Akia shot one monkey, and bang! My dad shot another monkey. So they had monkey meat for at least 1 week so they can survive. So that's how they survived this. So, but that fateful day on April 9, while they were at the camp at Mount Samat, they were ordered to support the frontline troops. And they were surprised. They were meeting their comrades moving up. And then when they went back to their camp, they saw all their offices, the machine guns were in shambles. And there was great confusion. So when they tried to move away, they were already facing Japanese soldiers. But at that time, before that surrender, they were asked to bury all their military records. They soak it in oil and bury them. So he was one of the guys who buried their war records. So upon surrender, they were divested of their arms, watches, and personal belongings. They were forced to line up regardless of race and rank, whether American or Filipino. It was very humiliating experience because you were forced to line up regardless of race and rank and will be forced to march from Mariveles, Bataan to the death camps in Lubao and somewhere in Tarlac. But my dad was not able to reach Tarlac. He was in the death camp. So what was life at the death camp? Our dad observed that inside the camp, let me backtrack a little bit. No? I guess we already said that during the death march, when they lined up, many people died along the way. And along the way, there was no water, so some of the soldiers ran to the canals. The canal was dirty, but it was water. Some of the bystanders tried to give them rice, but the rice tasted like iodine. So in the camp, he recalls that one will either lose their life or lose their mind. So every day, the dead soldiers were just carried out. Some will march out from the camp, never to return. So that was their life, only surrounded by barbed wires. So inside the camp, for several days, there was no food. But how did our dad survive? So he noticed one person with an olive jacket and with a hood tried to approach him with 1/4 molasses, what do you call this in Ilocano, parang samsamit, no? And then a canteen full of water. So even the death camp, there was still business. So he sold it to my dad for 2 pesos. He said, mahal naman. And then the guy said in hood, di bale, basta mabubuhay ko, ka. So bilhin mo na ito. So he bought it. So where did he hid his money? He hid his money within the seams of his underwear. So he parted with his 2 pesos. So inside the camp, while people were losing their minds of their lives, so he prayed so hard. Being a man of faith, he prayed so hard to Mama Mary, and he positioned himself near the barbed wire, and he tried to put a stick on the lowest rung of this barbed wire. So the Japanese, when he saw, obviously the Japanese knew what was going into his mind. No? He will lift up the lowest rung and then try to escape. So he resolved that trying to escape and be shot to death is better than dying of hunger inside the camp. So for 2 days he did not eat. So his first attempt was foiled because the Japanese just kicked the stick from the lowest rung. Private Daniel Akya said to him that, I will go first. If I get shot, do not follow.